Have you ever noticed how stories from cultures that are thousands of miles and thousands of years apart can feel, well, strangely similar? It turns out there's this powerful universal pattern for a very specific kind of hero, the one who comes along and just changes everything. So let's dive into this incredible ancient story of fire, breath, and human awakening.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? This isn't your typical story about heroes with swords and shields. No, this is about a figure who is defined by their compassion, a being who sees humanity struggling in the dark and decides they're going to do something about it, no matter what it costs them.
All right, to really see this pattern in action, we're going to look at two amazing figures from completely different corners of the world. Quetzalcoatl from Mesoamerica and, of course, Prometheus from ancient Greece.
Okay, so check this out. On one hand, you've got Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. This is the god who literally breathes life and knowledge into people. He's all about learning and renewal. Then, on the other hand, you have Prometheus, whose name actually means forethought. He looks down at humanity, his own creation, shivering and helpless, and he steals fire, the spark of everything really, technology, art, consciousness, from the gods themselves. They seem worlds apart, but the driver for both? A deep, profound love for us.
So you've got these two epic forces. Quetzalcoatl's breath, that's like the spirit, the life force that gets us going. And Prometheus's fire, that's the intellect, the spark of genius and new ideas. It's like they're two sides of the very same coin. These are the essential gifts that make us who we are, that make us truly human.
So yeah, we have these two stories that are already pretty similar. But this is where it gets really interesting because the parallels go so much deeper than just the gift-giving part. It turns out they both follow this really specific four-step pattern. It's kind of like a mythic blueprint, something we can call the Lightbringer cycle.
Okay, let's break this down. Step 1 is the gift. The fire, the breath, the secret knowledge. Step 2 is the defiance. And this part is absolutely crucial. They have to break the rules of some higher power, like a Zeus or a council of angry gods. Then comes step 3, the sacrifice. For showing all this compassion, they are punished, and it is brutal. Prometheus is chained to a rock for eternity. Quetzalcoatl is exiled and ends up sacrificing himself in a fire. But, and this is the key, it's not a tragedy. That brings us to the final step, the rebirth. Quetzalcoatl rises from the ashes to become the morning star, Venus, and Prometheus becomes this eternal symbol of righteous rebellion. Their suffering is transformed into a beacon of hope.
And that leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If the gift they gave was so wonderful, so essential, why was the punishment so incredibly harsh? Why is suffering always part of the deal when you're trying to bring light into the world?
Well, here's the thing. The answer is that these myths aren't just epic tales about gods and monsters out there. They're actually maps of our own inner world, a kind of guide to our own personal transformation.
Psychologically speaking, all that intense suffering is a metaphor for something called ego death. Just think about that higher order they defy. That angry Zeus figure? Well, that's basically our own ego. That part of us that craves control, that's terrified of change, and that wants to keep everything exactly as it is. The Lightbringer, then, represents that deeper, truer part of ourselves that knows we need to grow, even if it means letting that old, controlling self die a little. So the sacrifice isn't a tragedy at all, it's an initiation.
But wait, because here's a really fascinating twist. The way we choose to see this story, whether we view the Lightbringer as a hero or as a villain, that says a whole lot about our own culture and our own values. Just look at it this way. In the Greek world, what Prometheus did was heroic. He was a rebel with a cause. But if you shift your perspective, that exact same act, bringing forbidden knowledge to the masses, can be seen as a terrible act of pride. I mean, just think about Lucifer, whose name literally means Lightbringer. He was cast down not for having compassion, but for having too much pride. And this is the real kicker. The story itself doesn't really change, but the moral we slap onto it does. It all depends on who's telling the tale.
And this brings the whole myth right into your living room, into your life. What is the inner Zeus that's holding you back? Is it the fear of failure? Is it a belief system that doesn't serve you anymore? Or maybe it's just the pressure of what other people expect from you. This story is asking us, right now, to identify that authority we need to compassionately defy in order to grow.
So what does it actually mean to be a Lightbringer in our world today? Obviously, it doesn't involve stealing literal fire from a mountain, but the pattern, the blueprint, it's exactly the same. The modern Lightbringer is the artist who creates something that totally challenges your perspective. It's the activist who questions injustice with compassion, not just with rage. It's anyone who guides a rebellion with wisdom or who chooses to use empathy when flexing their power would be so much easier. It's really about accepting the personal risk that comes with trying to raise awareness, whether that's in your own family, in your community, or for the whole world.
And maybe this is the ultimate lesson from both Quetzalcoatl and Prometheus. Their gifts didn't pull us away from the world, they plunged us deeper into it. They gave us the tools, the breath of life, and the fire of consciousness to engage with our lives in a much fuller way. You see, true awakening isn't about floating above it all. It's about being more present, more compassionate, and more alive right here, right in the middle of it.
So in the end, these ancient figures are so much more than just characters in some dusty old book. They're mirrors. And whether you see the feathered serpent or the fire bearer or some other hero in that mirror, what you're really seeing is a reflection of a potential that exists inside all of us. The courage to bring a little light into the world, even when it's hard, and to honor that flame of awareness that lives inside every single human soul.